Good evening, SFBN world. I'm Ari Bluestein filling in for Richie Bleiweiss tonight. We have a lot of high school basketball to touch on. We'll go through District 1 all the way through District 12. We're going to talk some playoffs too. A lot of playoffs are starting. Got a lot of playoff implications. So don't go anywhere. Some exciting high school basketball next here on 3 in the Key. Welcome in again, SFBN world, to 3 in the Key. I'm Ari Bluestein filling in for Richie Bleiweiss, and here are my analysts to my left and right, Kapp and Josh Abrams. Welcome in, guys. Thank you again for joining us here on 3 in the Key.
Very glad to be here. Didn't get much sleep last night. There was some kind of game on. I can't remember.
Some kind of game. Wearing Eagle Green.
Yeah.
Super Bowl champions. Never thought I'd say that. But we're going to talk high school basketball here on this show on 3 in the Key.
Yeah.
So we have a lot to get to. Let's jump right into it. Actually, before we jump right into it, we got to go with Kapp's trivia question tonight. So remember to put your guess in the comments below. Here is the trivia question for tonight. What player scored the most points ever in a single game in Philadelphia high school boys basketball history? Again, which player scored the most points in a single game in Philadelphia high school boys basketball history? And the trivia answer coming up at the end of the show. But again, remember to put the answers in your comments. Put your guesses in the comments right here on Facebook Live. All right. Let's get right into it, guys. We're starting at the top, as usual, with District 1. A lot to talk about here. We're going to start in the Del Val League here. Chester. We talked about Chester a little bit last week, and they just continue to roll 65-39 over Glen Mills. And Kapp, what else can you say about this Chester Clipper team?
Okay.
They're just really playing well right now.
So at that point, they won 13 in a row, and they didn't lose a single game in 2018. And it was a great game. They beat their rival, Glen Mills, 14-5 after that. And then, of course, they lost their next game.
Right, and they lost to Bayard Rustin.
Bayard Rustin,
yeah,
right.
and you know, it's interesting because Rustin is really playing well right now. And we've talked about the Chestmont League with Coatesville dominating that league, but how about Rustin getting the big win over the Chester Clippers there, Josh?
Yeah, absolutely. And Bayard Rustin isn't your traditional state powerhouse team, but they do produce quality teams from here and there. They did make it to the semifinal districts not too long ago, a couple years ago. They showed that they can hang in there with any of these teams really. And you know, we thought Chester was really down in the dumps after an 0-5 start, and it took them a whole month to lose a game, and Rustin eventually was the team to beat them.
Now, I'm not sure, is Rustin at 5A? Usually those Westchester schools are 5A, right? So
Bayard Rustin's 5A.
And Chester's 5A as well.
Chester's 5A.
So
it could be a preview of the final.
Very well could
possible.
be.
Yeah, you look at the standings. Chester's number 4, 14-6 record. They're 3 spots ahead of Rustin, and that win essentially should have put Rustin closer and closer, but then Rustin ended up tripping up in their next game.
The swarming D is back for Chester. 13 straight victories. When they first started out the season, people said, "Oh, this is the worst Chester team of all time," and it didn't look good for them. They were 1-5, and then 13 straight in 2018. Of course, they lost to, as we're saying, to Bayard Rustin, who then turned around and lost to Westchester East in their subsequent games.
Yeah, you always have those Westchester, Rustin and East, and a lot of really good rivals in there with those Westchester schools. But yeah, if you look at the 5A, we're going to get to Pencrest a little bit later, but they're at the top of the 5A, and Chester's right there, and Chichester too. So 5A should be very interesting, and like you said, Kapp, could be a preview of maybe not the final, but maybe the semifinal, something like that.
You can never count Chester out,
right? And
yet this back and forth kind of proves that anybody could beat anybody down there. Chester's averaging a 23.5 margin of victory, by the way, in their league.
Yeah,
so
they dominated the league. We talked about that last time. Chester has just dominated their league, but played out of league and did not win against the Chestmont team. Jumping over to another league now in District 1, of course, got to talk about Suburban 1 when you're talking about District 1. Yep. And we're going to start with Cheltenham here. Jack Clark, going into the year, was their top player, committed to LaSalle, and he's out. And they're still winning, though. Crushed Quakertown, lost to Wissahickon, a really good 5A team. They're up there in the 5A. But, Josh Cheltenham, talk to me about them playing without Jack Clark. Is there any hope for them to make any noise in the District 1 playoffs or even get to the states at this point?
Well, I think the way that the standings are right now, and you look at how the playoff format for District 1, I think Cheltenham can emerge as a top 10 team from District 1 and make it to states. As recently they were ranked 16th in the District 1 6A power rankings, which means they would host that important first round home game. It's just a matter of how they're going to respond and how John Timms uses his bench, because obviously it's very hard to replace a player like Jack Clark with just one player. So it's very interesting to see how that's going to go.
And so many good teams in District 1 6A. It's going to be tough for Cheltenham to really do anything without Jack Clark.
Is it an ACL? Is that the...
It's some type of knee injury that obviously is...
I heard it was pretty serious. Whatever. He's done for the season.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he's done.
Now, he's a LaSalle. He's a signee at LaSalle. He's a commit, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So they don't pull that scholarship offer back, right?
Well,
how does that work?
I don't really know the details of that, but he should be ready to play for LaSalle at some point. I'm sure he's not going to try and get back for Cheltenham to risk further injury.
No, I heard he was done.
That's the word.
If the playoffs were to start today, Cheltenham would host their one and only home game to Ben Salem, because then they would have to go to number 1 Plymouth Whitemarsh, and obviously they're... Now, league rival could go either way. These two teams know each other better than
not without Jack Clark, the way PW is playing.
That is true.
Yeah, but we'll get to PW in a second.
By the way, Ben Salem's not bad.
Yeah, no. I mean, these District 1 6A teams are solid, and getting to our next matchup here, back on January 29th. Gotta love the Central Bucks rivalry, West versus East. West gets the win, 50-43. I love Jake Rakewine, 14 points, really solid player. Also had 9 rebounds. He's just a tough big man. And CB West then beat Penridge, 17-4 overall, 9-2 in Suburban 1 League Continental. And CB West looking pretty strong. They're usually pretty strong in boys basketball.
Yeah, and I think that win over Penridge essentially gave them the SOL Continental, because now if Penridge wants any shot at the SOL Continental, they're going to have to win out, and teams like CB West and CB South are going to have to lose out. I don't see either of those things happening, because CB West has to play Souderton, and as Souderton's not that great of a team, they could give CB West a good fight. I don't see CB West losing that game. But I want to mention Penridge. After that loss, they only scored 29 points against CB West.
51-29.
The next day they go into is it pronounced the Geigel complex?
Geigel complex.
Yeah, Kapp would know.
Yeah,
they went into the Geigel complex,
which is a very nice place. By the way.
beautiful arena at Reading.
Yeah,
and they beat
Reading,
a top 10 ranked Reading Knights, or Red Knights, in their own stadium in double overtime. No better way to respond from a poor offensive night than turning it up defensively and holding a very explosive Reading team to 50 points in 42 minutes.
That's a little surprising.
It's surprising. Any team that can do that on a night, you just got crushed, 51-20. 29 points is terrible, really. In a high school basketball game, that's not good.
Tell us how you really feel.
That's not good. And then the next night, you turn around and you beat the defending state champions.
Statement win, great win for Penridge, and Dean Behrens, as we say every week. The tenured coaches, the coaches that have been there for as long as I've been alive, for 19, 20 years, they always seem to know what to do in these situations. Yeah. So it was definitely a great response.
Yeah, really great response from Penridge. Big win, and then CB West also with those 2 big wins. So we'll keep an eye out for how these teams do with the Suburban 1 and see what Penridge does. Now, we said we talked about PW a little bit and potential matchup, but this team is undefeated, 20-0, rolled over Upper Dublin, 72-42 this past Tuesday. 9 different scores, obviously, emptying the bench with the game well in hand. Naeem McLeod with 20 points. And also, PW, they play Hatboro Horsham coming up this week, but they also beat Newman Goretti in I believe it was a play-by-play classics. It was one of those.
It was, yeah.
They are showing that they are not only the best team in Suburban 1, not only the best team in District 1, but they could be the best team in Southeastern PA right now.
They might be. They're ranked number 2 behind Imhotep, and they're obviously one of the best teams in the
Would love to
state.
see that match.
Oh my goodness! You find out what you're made of when you play teams that you don't usually play. When's the next time we're going to see a team like Plymouth Whitemarsh play teams of the likes of Carroll, Wood, Bonner Prendy,
right,
and now Newman Gretty? These are the 4 best teams in the 4 of the best teams in the PCL, which we're going to get to later. But Plymouth Whitemarsh they don't know how to lose.
They beat them all.
They
That's
look
right.
very good, and when you're talking about the 6A classification level, obviously, you have the PCL teams that you would expect to be there, like the Romans, certainly St. Joe's Prep, but PW looks like the team to beat right now, and I think could potentially be a favorite for the state title.
And by the way, the big kid, McLeod, is better than anybody thought he was at the beginning of the season.
Oh, yeah.
And, I saw him early in the season, and he looked like we were talked about it. We talked about it a couple times. Like his game was evolving. He's working on his footwork and that type of thing, scoring a couple points here and there. He busted out for over 32 games in a row, and he had 20 here. And, I mean, he's turned into a 7'2" force.
Yeah, he really has. And he's turned PW into a state title contender among the other players there. And we talked about the 5A, and we alluded to Pencrest a little bit earlier, but they are dominating the Central League. They're the top team in 5A. Beat Harrington 69-48. I love guard Tyler Norwood, so fast, so quick. And this is, again, you're talking about state title contenders. Pencrest has to be in the conversation at the 5A level, and 18-2 overall, killing it in the Central League. And I just love the way, again, I love Tyler Norwood. When you have a guy that can score like that, I think that you have a real shot to make some noise.
So, senior point guard, veteran, very poised. But when you're that old, you've gone through so many games in your life. You just know what to do at this point. Pencrest, you look at obviously in District 1, they are the number 1 team. They're 18-2. The team right behind them is Bishop Shanahan, 16-3.
And they're a solid team. They're
a
solid team.
They beat Coach
solid teams all around. You look at Pencrest and Bishop Shanahan, 18-2, 16-3. Everyone else, 14-6. Going from Wissahickon all the way down to
and
Ruston.
Wissahickon and Chester and Ruston in there too, and you can throw Great Valley.
And that's just District 1. You look at the standings in just overall in Class 5A. 3 PCL teams ahead of Pencrest now. Could we see Pencrest matching up against one of them in the state tournament? Absolutely.
Yes.
And that's going to be an interesting matchup.
And that's the true test for Pencrest, to see what they can do against the likes of Archbishop Wood, Archbishop Carroll, Bonner Prendy. If they happen to survive, get across the other side of the state and take on a Mars or an Allentown Central Catholic in D11. But they should certainly be in the conversation right now.
Oh, without question. And they're tough to beat at home, too, in that shoebox of a gym.
Well, hey, they're playing well. So many great District 1 teams, and we could talk District 1 again all night long because of the area that it covers. But we're going to take the time out, and we're going to, again, move across the state a little bit to District 3 and District 7. That's all next after this on 3 in the Key.
Hi, I'm Tommy Green, former pitcher for the Philadelphia Phillies. When I was in high school, it was very important to me to show scouts what I could do. My friends at Payroll Service Solutions are huge supporters of high school sports and the Sports Fan Base Network. If you're a small to medium-sized business in need of a payroll company, contact Payroll Service Solutions. Not only will they take care of you, they will continue to support the community. For more information, contact Payroll Service Solutions at 215-624-0922 or 866-PAY-EASY.
We're talking goaltending here, and we're talking about high school rules as opposed to NCAA or NBA, which are slightly different. The referee is looking for 4 criteria. Number 1, is the ball on its way down? Number 2, is the ball fully above the rim? Number 3, was it an attempted shot? And number 4, did that shot have a chance to go in the opinion of the referee? If all 4 of those criteria are met, a goaltending call is made and the basket is good. Slapping the backboard is never goaltending. It's always a technical foul.
Welcome back into 3 in the Key. I'm Ari Bluestein, filling in for Richie Bleiweiss, joined as always by Kapp and Josh Abrams. Just talked District 1. We're going to get into a little bit of District 3 now. We're going to start here with the Mid-Penn League, okay? Harrisburg, get into them a little bit. Defeated Central Dauphin East 77-49, and Harrisburg, who unfortunately had a football season that fell short a little bit, hoping that their basketball team maybe does a little something. Good win over CD East here, and Harrisburg right in the mix. They're not, I mean, they're near the top. I wouldn't say they're one of the top teams in Mid-Penn, especially when you throw State College in there to District 3. But tell me a little bit about Harrisburg. This is a nice win for them.
Harrisburg was a preseason favorite, and then they had a player named Micah Parsons, suffered a small injury, but actually left school early to go play football for Penn State. He's actually in college. So they lost him, and they had to kind of regroup a little bit. They have a big man. They have one big man. His name is Tahir Meat Hook Butler.
I like Meat Hook.
I'm going to go with Meat Hook on that one. Okay. He's very large. I mean, he's like 6'7", but wide. You know, so he picked up 13 points in the second quarter alone of the game against CD East. So they had a lot of scoring, balanced scoring, 4 guys in double figures. Maurice Glenn hit 5 trays. So this is a pretty good team. I mean, they're going to be in the mix. They're going to be in the thick of it. So they're 15-6 right now, and 10-3 in their division. Yeah,
I mean that's solid. And again, you know, it was a tough loss for the football squad, and I think the basketball team, hopefully they can make a little bit of a run. Okay, so moving on here to the next Mid-Penn team we wanted to talk about, Milton Hershey. Right. It's a team we've talked about before. 67-52 win over Steel High back on January 30th. And, you know, 13-3 overall, 8-2 in league play. They take on a good Trinity team. They're usually a team in the mix there. And I know we've talked about Donye, Baylor, Carroll. And did he get back on the scoring track?
Yeah, he got back on the scoring track. He had actually 31 in the second half.
Wow.
So remember they had that formula
not
where
bad.
they not bad at all. Ended up he had 4 in the first half, 31 in the second half, so he had 35 for the game. The kid is 5'8", about 155 pounds, but quick as a cat, and obviously can put up some points. Now he's been held down a couple times by double teaming and real smart defense, but he looked pretty good in this particular game here. So Milton Hershey is let's see, what is their record? They've lost. They're 13-3 and 8-2 in the Capital Division of the Mid-Penn. So that's a pretty good record.
Yeah, not bad.
Best record in years for them.
Yeah, and Josh, I mean, if you have anything to say here, like Harrisburg and Milton Hershey, they're teams that are in the conversation. They're not near the top, but they do have some solid players on the team that could really help them.
Absolutely. And looking at their schedule and looking at their record in general, Milton Hershey 17-3. They're 12-2 in their league. Harrisburg, I'd have to go back and look at, because I'm not too familiar with District 3, but they're up there too. They have a very solid record.
Yeah.
They're not placed at the top of the classification standings simply because of the teams we have down here in southeastern Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
Now, in their own respective district or regional playoffs before they reach the classification state tournament, anything can happen, obviously, because these teams know each other well. It's just a matter of how they're going to stack up in the long run against these bigger teams.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely will see. Like you said, you're right. I mean, there's a lot of really good teams here in southeastern PA, and we'll see how they shake out. But again, they've got the players to potentially make some noise. All right, let's get to our next game here. This was a really good game. Greencastle Antrim with a 59-58 win over Shippensburg. Now, I'm pretty sure Greencastle is a smaller school, right? They're probably like 2A or 3A.
But they're undefeated, right?
18-2 overall, 11-0 in league play. But Ship is right behind them in second place, 12-6 overall, 7-4 in league play. Right. But right now, it looks like Greencastle kind of has a stranglehold here on the Colonial Division in the Mid-Penn League. And again, this is a smaller school. I'll see if Josh, if you can look up what classification they are, because I'm curious. I know they are a smaller school.
Shippensburg is a 5A team.
Okay, so. But I'm pretty sure Greencastle's at least.
And Greencastle held Carter Van Skyok. We've mentioned him before. He's the leading scorer in the Mid-Penn, and he was held to 18. Now, holding him, 18 is a pretty good game, but for a guy like Skyok, I mean, that's they kept him under control. And Greencastle Antrim was able to win that game by 1. 59-58.
Yeah, close game. That's a really nice game. I'm sure that would have been a real nice game to kind of check out. But Greencastle got a stranglehold there on that Colonial.
And I wanted to go
division.
backwards just for a second.
Yeah.
Middletown's high scorer named Ryan Hughes had 33 in the game against Trinity. They lost.
Right.
But he had 4 trays, and he's their third leading scorer of all time. He's approaching big numbers down there. And he signed with Ursinus.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I just wanted to mention that.
Nice.
He did sign with Ursinus.
So Trinity took down Middletown, and they take on Milton Hershey.
That's
next.
correct.
So that should definitely be pretty interesting.
Yep.
Yes. So Greencastle. Did you find out what classification they are?
Greencastle I have not seen, but I'll look that up.
We'll check that out. We'll go into our next game here. Now this is Hershey High School.
Hershey High,
not Milton Hershey.
Right,
Hershey High Public School. They defeat Palmyra 64-48 on January 31st. Jake Wilson with the big game, 24 points for Hershey.
That's
and this
right.
is now in the Keystone division of the Mid-Penn. 18-2 overall, 12-1. And Palmyra, they're a team that's down at the bottom of the standings. But still, Hershey High, they've done pretty well, and they continue to roll here.
Hershey High is doing very well. I mean, really great season for them. 18-2, 12-1. Is that what we said? I think
Yes.
right.
Yep.
And first place in the Mid-Penn Keystone division. So Hershey High is rolling. Palmyra not having such a great season.
No, they're 5-16 overall, 3-11.
3-11. They're at the bottom there.
Hershey, however, is on a 2-game losing streak. I mean, as we've been talking about, let's see here. They most recently lost pretty badly to Palmyra, 16-point deficit. Seems that Hershey, as we talked about, both Hershey's, taking over the Mid-Penn.
Yeah.
In terms of at least the Keystone
Wait, hold on a
Conference.
second. Was that because I have Hershey as a win on that? Did they beat Palmyra?
Oh yeah,
Or
they
lose
beat
to
Palmyra. No, they beat Palmyra.
Got some conflicting reports here.
No, I have
on,
64-48.
our
64-48. That's what I have anyway.
It says here that
They have lost.
they've lost their last 2 games against Lower Dolphin and Palmyra.
How about
It says
that?
they lost against Palmyra.
Oh, well, we got some fake news here on the show.
It was fake news.
All right. So that's the Mid-Penn Conference, but obviously there's a lot going on. And,
Really?
And
Wow.
there's a lot of teams that are definitely in the mix here. We wanted to move on to another league we didn't touch on last week, the York Adams League.
Yeah. It's a league we don't talk about.
We don't really talk about them, but we want to give them some props here. York beats previously unbeaten Northeastern York in a big rivalry game, and I believe that was York's 5th game in a week.
That's right.
Correct? I mean, they come up with the big win. Talk about York a little bit.
I mean,
in the
5
York
games
Adams
in
League.
one. It gets kind of confusing in the York Adams because it seems like there's so many teams with the name York. So you have Northeastern York, you have Central York, you have York, Eastern York, York Catholic, York Tech,
York
and
Suburban.
York. I mean, it's confusing.
Yeah.
It really is if you're not out there, and we don't know all that much about that league.
Yeah.
But they split it into Division 1, Division 2, Division 3,
Right.
and I don't really think that refers to the quality. I think that's just how they break it up.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, but
It could be. I
yeah.
think you look at a lot of these teams. They're some of the smaller schools, in terms of classification wise. So you're not talking about these teams competing with like the 6A, but it's definitely a good league. And I know the York Adams League is very good for soccer. I know that.
Yeah.
They're definitely in there for soccer. But that's a big win for York beating previously unbeaten Northeastern York.
And Northeastern York has a real high scorer. Anthony Rizzuto, I believe, is his name.
Yep. Yeah, we've talked about him on the show multiple times.
Anthony had 47
sharpshooter
in a game earlier this season, and he can score. So this is a big win for York.
And this was York's, or maybe not that specific game, but they had played five games in a week.
In a week.
Not
very,
There's
very.
something you don't see in football. Right?
No, you're not going to get
you
that.
can't do that. You can't. You essentially
you're
can't.
not. I think
5 games in 1 week.
Baseball and softball might be the only other sports.
Yeah, but I mean,
really see that.
regardless, it's trying on the body. I know these guys are in great shape and everything because they're at the prime of their lives, but 5 games in 1 week, that's a challenge.
So Northeastern
and I bet they
York,
love it too.
So Northeastern York falls to 18-1 overall, 11-1 in league play.
That's right.
York 11-8, 7-4 in
7-4.
league play. Last topic we wanted to talk about here in District 3 was Reading. We touched on them earlier. They with a surprising loss in their own gym to Penridge, but before that, crushed Exeter Township 80-49, Governor Mifflin 60-36, and despite that setback, Josh, I really think Reading is a team that needs to be reckoned with. I know there's no Lonnie Walker, but this is still a good team.
You get to this point late in the season, and you see Reading's record, and you're thinking, okay, they're looking just about as good, at least record-wise and stat-wise, as they did last year. with Lonnie Walker. Now, they were essentially unbeatable with Lonnie Walker.
Once they got into the playoff run.
But at this point, it's so late in the season that you can't dwell on the past. You can't worry about how everything went last year. And I think Reading can take. They can. I don't want to say run the table because they're not an underrated team.
Right.
I just think that they're primed for another big playoff run.
I think they're a team to be reckoned with. I think they are going to be solid in District 3, but they don't have that big player. I don't see them competing with the big boys from District 1 and 6A. You're talking about PW. And I don't see them competing with the PCL teams. I think, look, they're going to be there. I just don't think they can beat those teams.
No, I agree.
Not this year.
We're gonna see Reading probably get as far as the state quarterfinals, maybe the last 8 at the best.
We'll have to see how the seeding kind of shakes out, but yes.
It also all depends on how they do, like I said before, in their regional and district playoffs, because that determines your seed and that determines who you play in terms of the degree of difficulty in the state tournament.
It sets you up for the state tournament. That's right.
Yeah. Well, we're going to take a quick timeout. Great District 3 conversation. A lot of great teams to talk about. We're going to take a quick break here on 3 in the Key. We'll be back.
Ladies and gentlemen, you've spent 3 days with the most insane program, okay, I have witnessed in my 17-year career. It excites me, the presence of point blank period, of Coach Dooley, of Coach Fowler, of the people that he works out with, that he trains with, okay? It's exciting. And you have had the luxury of spending 3 awesome days with these people. I watched Coach Fowler play. Mr. Coach, you watch Coach Farrell play? He is one of the most annoying basketball players you will ever see in your life. Okay? Because exactly what he trains, exactly what he preaches to you, he does at all times. This is real habit. This is not a gimmick. This is real basketball. Real basketball. Something that he has found success with. He has spread the word.
Let's talk live ball contact versus dead ball contact. We're trying to determine whether we have a common foul, a technical foul, an intentional foul, or a flagrant foul which ejects the player. So, a live ball contact is never a technical. Live ball contact must be ruled either a common foul, a shooting foul, an intentional foul, or a flagrant foul. In high school rule, an intentional foul means that there was no attempt to play the ball. A deliberate foul was taken without a basketball move. That's an intentional foul. If that player was attempting to injure or hurt his opponent, it can be considered flagrant, and that player is then ejected. Now, let's take a dead ball situation. The whistle has blown on a violation or a foul or whatever the case may be, and a player comes over and shoves another player or hits another player. Now we have contact during a dead ball situation. That is always a technical foul. Can it be a flagrant technical? Yes. Again, if there was an attempt to injure that player, a technical foul can be ruled flagrant, and that player can be thrown out of the game and sent to the bench. In high school, a player goes to the bench when he's ejected, not to the locker room. And that's live ball, dead ball, contact fouls.
Welcome back to 3 in the Key. I'm Ari Bluestein filling in for Richie Bleiweiss tonight. Kapp, Josh Abrams to my left and right respectively. And we're going to get into a little bit of District 7 and roll right into the exciting District 12.
Yeah.
But first, wanted to touch on a couple teams in District 7. Whitfield definitely needs to be discussed. We're going to start with Penn Hills. They're definitely still a top team in the Whitfield. They're fighting with Woodland Hills for the Section 3 of 6A. They're going to take on Woodland Hills tomorrow, which could really decide Section 3.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, this is some good basketball here in the Whitfield.
Yeah, it's just, and I say it every week on the show. It's a shame we don't get to see any of these Western PA teams.
I'm thinking road trip. No,
you would have to dedicate probably a whole weekend, a whole couple days just to go out there and watch these teams play.
Well, we'd like to see them.
It's probably a specialty. You know, Penn Hills is ranked. They're the top 6, top 10 team in the entire state. They're 19-2 overall, and those 2 losses came in conference play, so they can handle out of out of league opponents.
And they're a 6A team.
Yeah,
top level team.
the top level team.
What's their conference? Do you have their conference record?
We talked about the
I'm a game
WPIAL. We
behind
talked
here.
about the WPIAL format as being, the classifications and then 3 sections.
Right.
Penn Hills is in the Section 3 conference of the WPIAL.
In the 6A.
And that's where we see them fighting with Woodland Hills. Now, Woodland Hills, the standings here aren't updated, but Penn Hills and Woodland Hills, the Hills schools, if you want to give it a nickname, are fighting for the top of that Section 3. And that game tomorrow will decide.
I mean,
the
Fox
6A.
Chapel is not far behind. Am I right? I think.
No, them and Greater Latrobe.
Latrobe,
those
right?
are the 4 that round out the major core teams of
But
that.
somebody's taking a loss tomorrow.
Someone.
So,
one of them has to.
one of the Hills is
One of
taking
them
a
has
loss.
to, and it's hard to see Penn Hills really lose this game simply because they're just getting hot at the right time. They've like I said, they've shown they can win those outside games, and they've bounced back nicely after taking a loss to Fox Chapel the other day.
Yeah, I think Penn Hills is definitely the favorite here, but like you said, Fox Chapel did take them down, so Penn Hills is not completely unbeatable. The WPIAL so competitive,
and their other league loss came to Greater Latrobe. So these top 4 teams here they're so unpredictable, and especially at this time of the year.
Right, and even they had a tough take with Penn Trafford, who's a pretty good program, but they're not having a great year. So really, anything could happen on any given night, like we're seeing in a lot of leagues, like the Philadelphia Catholic League, which we're going to get into shortly. The other team we wanted to talk about in District 7 is Quaker Valley. Quaker Valley, we talked about them last time. You guys have talked about them on the show when Richie's been here. Undefeated this season, coming off that win over Hopewell, 78-46. Ryan Stowers, 30 points. 20 points from Danny Conlon, 17-0 overall, 12-0 in Section 2. And I believe they're a 4A school.
Yep.
We talked about that.
Yep,
that is correct.
I think you're lining up when you see these district brackets come out, the classification brackets come out. Quaker Valley, Imhotep.
Yep.
You could be looking at a Quaker Valley Imhotep championship game, and I mean that's going to be monster. But Quaker, talk to me about Quaker Valley.
Both Quaker Valley and Imhotep keep getting stronger and stronger as the year goes on, and they are heading towards each other like 2 freight trains right now. So we'll see how it all shuffles out. But they're undefeated out there, and and obviously Imhotep is one of the best teams in the state.
Yes, one of the best teams in the country.
If not the country.
Yeah, one of the best teams in the country for sure.
Number 20 in the country right now?
Yes, number 20 is where Imhotep stands. Quaker Valley, Coltrane, Washington, we talked about him last week. He's averaging 20. He's almost a 25 points per game scorer. Then right behind him, Danny Conlon, 15.6. Other than that, there's no other double-digit scorers, so they're not the most balanced team.
But you've got Stowers in there. He's averaging about 16 a game, and he put up 30 the other night.
Yeah,
so,
Ryan Stowers.
Yes, Coltrane Washington.
Yes, that's right. I forgot about Stowers.
Yeah. So Coltrane Washington is the guy, but he has a couple of other.
He has two 15 points per game scorers to help him out. And when you're averaging that much,
and just extrapolating ahead a little bit, I'm talking about this Imhotep Quaker Valley matchup. It's going to be important for Quaker Valley to get help from some of those other players because that head coach Andre Noble is going to be keying in on Coltrane Washington, and Imhotep has the athleticism and they have the depth to be able to defend a big score like that. So I know I'm jumping way ahead here, and Quaker Valley needs to take care of business in the WPIAL first and get through. But I'm just saying, when you get to that matchup, that they're going to need to get some of these other guys to step up and have a balance.
These top 3 players for Quaker Valley are 6'4", 6'5". They're wing guys. They can pretty much do almost anything from what the stand.
Right, but Imhotep is not big. They're athletic, they're long, but they're not big.
They don't have a big man per se.
Dante Scott,
and neither does Quaker Valley, and that's what's going to make it interesting. So if there's no big man for either, there's no 6'9" or taller guy for either team.
There's no Naeem McLeod here.
So what's going to win this game is either Imhotep's athleticism, as you said, or Quaker Valley's persistence in trying to get Stowers and Conlon into
Yeah.
the mix, especially on the offensive end.
It'll definitely be very interesting. But again, Imhotep has to take care of business first. Quaker Valley's got to take care of business in the Whippeal, and that leads us right in to our District 12 discussion here with the Public League.
I was just going to say,
we're going to get into the pub. We know
Yeah.
Imhotep's dominating; they're the top
Well,
seed in the pub bracket. But we wanted to kind of talk about
Yeah.
some of these teams that are under the radar a little bit. I know you
Yeah.
wanted to touch on a couple of these games.
Right.
Washington High School and String Theory. Now, String
Theory,
they've got
yeah,
a
how
really
about
good
that?
player. I know Washington won this game,
Yeah.
and they're both going to be in the playoffs as the bracket is out now. But String Theory's got a really good player.
Right. String Theory has Anthony Brown, who leads the public league in scoring, just crossed 1,000 points in that game. Now, String only lost to Washington by 5 points, 91-86. Anthony Brown had, ready for this, 48 in that game.
Wow.
And that's not easy to do in a high school game, 48 points.
9 of 11 from beyond the arc.
9 of 11 from 3, yeah. So this kid can score. I mean, he's averaging probably 26 a game, I'm thinking, somewhere around there.
Impressive, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's a lot.
And when you look at the pub, and we're going to get into another game in a moment, but again, it's Imhotep and King, Lincoln definitely in the mix. You have to talk about Constitution and MCS too. Sankofa's in there, Mastery North. But it really comes down to who can potentially knock off Imhotep. I don't know who that's going to be. I don't know if it's going to be anybody.
Either,
but there was another great game. We have to mention this game. Quadruple overtime. South Philadelphia beats Northeast. It's the longest game in both schools' histories, and
that's a long history.
And I know you're all about the pub history here.
Yeah.
They're both part of the original 8.
That's right.
Original 8 schools. I mean, South Philly, Northeast. I don't know all the other Central's in
Germantown
there
was one, but Germantown doesn't exist
now
anymore.
Closed.
That's right.
But talk to me about this game. I know both these teams are not really in the mix in terms of playoffs and winning the pub title, but this is 4 overtimes. That's got to be a lot of fun.
4 overtimes, and it was, I believe, it was a third game of the week or of a 6 or 7 day spread for both teams. So this had to be really trying. I mean, Northeast has won a couple games. They had a very tough season early on and a hard way to go. And they were losing and losing and losing. Then they picked up a couple of wins and they lost the game to South Philly. 4 overtimes, but they're still in the playoffs because they are in the B division. And 12 out of 13 teams get into the playoffs, so they're sneaking into a play-in game. I think they play Mastery Charter South, if I'm remembering correctly.
We'll have to check the bracket there, but I think you're right on that. But
so I mean, look, I mean, again, 110 years these teams have been playing basketball.
Yeah.
And by the way, Northeast, I think, has the longest drought of any school, at least in this area, of not winning a league championship. 1929. Was the last league championship for Northeast High.
Not quite as, that's much longer than the Eagles drought was. 1960.
Although I do remember the last NFL championship.
Second Eagles reference, by the way. I thought there would be more at this point. But you know what's interesting about this game? The last thing I'll say about the pub here, we know Imhotep's the favorite. We know King is good too. But what's interesting is Imhotep's 4A. King, I believe, is 5A.
I have that here somewhere,
Now, when you think about 6A, which is where Northeast and South Philly lie, Lincoln is the team to beat. But if Lincoln gets knocked out early, Josh, one of these teams could maybe get a shot at getting into the 6A classification playoffs. I don't know how much of a shot they have, but that could be an interesting wrinkle in this public league playoff.
Right, and Lincoln has never. They're not in the standings right now as a top 10 team, but they're in there. They're in there. They're a team to watch.
Right,
and. A win over Lincoln would be a huge accomplishment. It would be a milestone, and it would be a huge upset. Yeah. And when you get a big win like that, the momentum can shift your way. Like you could just go 180.
Well, the way I understand it, and I think tell me if I'm right about this. There's 6A teams: Lincoln, Frankfort, Washington, Northeast, Central only in the public league. One of them comes out of there.
Yes.
Now, if Lincoln loses early. They're knocked out early. It's possible.
Yeah, it's possible.
And Northeast gets a surprise victory early on.
Yeah, I mean, my money is on Lincoln.
It's crazy, but yeah.
My money's on Lincoln for 6A. I mean, they have played very well.
They have played very well.
They're 11-1 in league play, and they beat Sankofa, a good small school team.
Yeah, I was there.
So my money's on Lincoln, but it could get interesting. You never know.
It could.
You never know.
It's last team standing in the public league. So if you look at this, there's only 4 2A teams and 3 1A teams.
Yeah.
And 6 6A teams. So it's like, I mean, really the strength is in the 2A and the 4A.
Yes. 4A.
Surprisingly enough.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the 2A.
4A and Imhotep obviously is
That's right.
in 4A there.
Right.
I mean, these 3A teams, some of them we don't talk about at all.
Yeah.
So I mean, they're just.
Let's also not forget about Imhotep beating Camden the
Yeah.
other night, which
I
is
was
the
gonna bring
same
that up.
Camden team
Yeah.
that beat Westtown.
That's correct.
Imhotep, obviously, we already talked about them, but I think they're ready. They're prepared. They just got
Right.
they got to finish out the regular season, and they're just going to be rolling.
And beat them 61-48.
I was going to say they beat them by 13.
Yeah,
So
I mean that's a solid win. And I remember going into that game. I think
Yeah.
you and I were talking. I said Imhotep's got that game. I said, as good as Camden is, as good as Westtown is, Imhotep is just so good this year.
I mean,
But-
and Camden, like we said, Camden beat Westtown.
Right.
And that was a great game. That went
Yeah.
into overtime, and it was like back
yeah,
and forth.
but that just shows
Yeah.
you where
Westtown's
Imhotep
really strong.
is at right now. Okay, so before we get into the Catholic League, I want to remind everybody watching tonight, number one, we have our trivia question. I want to remind everybody about our trivia question here. I love
Yeah.
Cat's trivia. Tonight's question is, what player scored the most points ever in a single game in Philadelphia high school boys basketball history? You got to go back a
You
little
got to go
bit.
back. The answer is not Anthony Brown, who scored
had
48 the other day.
For
It's
string
not
theory.
Anthony Brown.
Not Anthony Brown.
But I'm
So-
sure that was a record for his school. In fact, it was a record for string theory. So yeah.
Make sure
Yeah.
that you put your guesses in the comments below.
Yeah.
And not only that, use the comment section. If you want us to talk about a certain team, please comment us and tell us what you want us to talk about, because we are open to
Yeah.
conversation, and we know we have a lot of people that watch in the Philadelphia area. We're getting right into the Catholic League, the most exciting league to talk about, especially in Philly. So make sure you comment us. Okay, let's get into the PCL. We're going to roll right into the PCL here, stay in District 12. Let's start with Roman Catholic beating LaSalle 65-62. LaSalle, of course, had the big win over Bonner Prendy. Now Bonner was a little bit shorthanded in that game, but it was still a big win nonetheless. But Roman getting a big win here, and they are led by Seth Lundy, who is just solid.
Seth Lundy's outstanding, and that was a very important victory for them. They needed that. Look, LaSalle's looked good. Now, again, they beat Bonner Prendy, and they were flu-ridden or whatever they were.
Yes.
I forget exactly what happened in that game. That's the only loss for Bonner Prendy in the league play, right? So
Right. They
right?
almost
So-
they had
Yes.
the scare
Yeah.
against Archbishop Ryan, but ended up winning that one in overtime.
Ryan likes scaring other teams.
They just did it again today, I
Yeah,
believe.
Roman Catholic ranked number 5th in the state of Pennsylvania right now.
Very
And
strong,
you
very
look
strong
at
team.
they're ranked 3rd in the 6A classification behind Abington and Plymouth White Marsh.
Right up there.
You
Yep.
have to when you look at those rankings, you have to wonder how they're not at the top of the PCL. But obviously, we've got the surprise team in Bonner,
Right.
The solid play of St. Joe's as well.
St. Joe Prep, right?
Yeah,
right.
St. Joe's Prep.
Which, by the way, beat LaSalle
right.
the other day.
And St. Joe's Prep just went down today to Archbishop Wood. We'll get into Wood in a second. But,
Yes, yeah.
Again, kind of talking about this Roman team, they're a 6A team. They're definitely up there. I think COBL has them ranked 3rd behind PW and Abington. Obviously, that's, rightfully so. But this PCL is so tight this year. We're going to get into some of the
really
more games.
is, yeah.
Roman has the talent. They've got Lundy. They've got Hakeem Hart. They've got Lynn Greer III. So they have the talent to potentially make a run. And once you get to the Palestra, you get to the semifinals, anything could happen. So let's get to the team that won the whole thing last year, Archbishop Wood. Now, this is a team that struggled at times this year. They beat West Catholic, who is a solid team. I mean, when you talk about the PCL, they're near the bottom, but they're still not a bad team. 64-53.
That's right, yeah.
They definitely needed this game. Tyree Picaron, who is the leading scorer on this Archbishop Wood team, 32 points in that game.
Breakout game.
And then
Yeah.
Archbishop Wood with a big win over St. Joe's Prep today. Come
Yep.
from behind. St. Joe's Prep was up early. I believe they started 10-0 in that game. And Wood comes back to win. Maybe the Vikings are hitting their stride at the right time.
I mean, personnel-wise, talent-wise, they're as good as anybody. There's no question about it. And that's a big win over St. Joe Prep because, the Prep crushed LaSalle.
Yes.
by 30 points.
Yeah,
and it really was not even that close.
Right, and Archbishop Wood beat Bishop McDevitt as well, 59-42. I mean, Tyree Pickeron, all-time leader in points with over 1,300. Tops Tim Whalen, who played in 1999, graduated in 99. But, again, this PCL is so tight this year. I know Archbishop Wood struggled. They're now moving up a little bit in the standings, now 7-3. They've hopped over St. Joe's Prep. They slide into that 5 spot. They probably want to get up to the 4 spot so they can have a home game in the quarterfinals. But, I mean, Josh, this PCL is just so tight.
It's great
It's very tight. You know, you look at it right now. Bonner Prendy and Newman Goretti stand at 10-1. When you have two teams that are tied for first place, it makes it even more difficult to get into that top 4 spot. They're going to have to hope for a loss from Roman or Archbishop Carroll if they want to get into that top spot, because that win against St. Joe's Prep, the team right above them, put them ahead of them. Now they're essentially 1 game away from that top 4 spot. It's just a matter of fate coming into play here, and Archbishop Wood's just going to have to try and win out. It's going to be a lot easier said than done, because they beat St. Joe's Prep today, but they have Roman in a couple days.
They have Roman on Friday, but again, Wood has a chance to beat Roman there. Of course, Carroll plays Bonner. I believe that's Friday night. That's a huge game. Newman Goretti plays St. Joe's Prep. That's a huge game. So these top teams in the PCL are all going to play each other, and they're going to have a chance to get into that top 4 spot, which is really where you want to be in the PCL, to host in the quarterfinals and get that shot to get to.
And this is why the PCL is just so great.
Oh, man.
Great game after great game after great game, and it gets even better during the playoffs. It's so exciting.
And we don't have a game of the week this week, but we will be covering one of those PCL quarterfinals. We're going to have to pick which one's going to be the best game. Maybe a Roman Wood game, or I don't know.
I was going to say, how do you guys decide what game you want to
There's a lot of factors that go into that, and of course, I'm the CEO of SFBN. I have a lot of the power in that, a lot of factors, but we want to try and pick the best game. So make sure you stay tuned. We're going to talk about that next week once we select the quarterfinal that we're going to cover. One more game we wanted to touch on. Roman, again, they defeated Father Judge, who's just struggled this year, unfortunately.
Tough season for Judge.
And a player I forgot about was Alan Betrand, who had 21 points in that game, and he's just a phenomenal player. And we mentioned about St. Joe's Prep crushing LaSalle 88-53.
And Ed Croswell looked great, by the way.
Now, Croswell only had 2 points or 4 points today.
In the next game, but he looked great in the LaSalle game, strong as an ox in that game.
Right, he is another LaSalle commit, just like Jack Clark from Cheltenham in District 1. So LaSalle got some hope. I got a LaSalle kid right here, our production crew, LaSalle kids.
That's right.
Got some hope for the Explorers as they pump their fists.
The young Explorers.
The Eagles got the Super Bowl. Maybe there's an A-10 championship in the future.
That's right. And who would have thought that 10 months ago, right?
That's almost as bold as a week ago saying however long it's been, saying the Eagles would eventually win a Super Bowl.
I think what I said was a little more bold than the Eagles actually winning the Super Bowl, because they had a good shot. But anyway, we're getting off track a little bit here. Again, you talk about all these teams in the PCL, but who's the number 1 dog? It's Newman Goretti. Newman Goretti is still the team to beat. I know they lost to Plymouth White Marsh, but they've got a big man. Nobody else in the PCL is a big man like Marcus Littles. And you've got Daimir Montague, you've got Noah Warren, and of course,
they're loaded.
You've got Carl Argyle, the great coach, one of the greatest coaches in PCL history. And I guess the question is to you here, Kapp, and Josh too, who is the biggest threat to Newman Goretti? I know Bonner beat
Bonner
them,
Prendy,
but on a neutral floor at the Palestra, is Bonner the biggest threat?
I think, look, Bonner Prendy has had a great season. Isaiah Wong has been outstanding. And as a Jerry Johnson and others on that team, I think it's Ingraham also, Tyree, is his name Tyree, right?
Yep.
I mean, those guys have been great. What a season they've had and all that. But I think when it comes right down to it in the long run, I would put my money, if I was a betting man, which I'm not, on Roman. Roman is loaded, and they have the history and so on. And it would be, if Bonner Prendy beat them, it would be a great victory. But I would bet on Roman coming out of this.
Now I haven't seen Carroll yet. One of our writers, Brian Greer, has been to a couple of games. You saw that.
I saw them a little bit.
Now I don't know how they look. They have a great coach too.
Well coached. Yeah, that's right.
I mean, but you could say that really about a lot of these teams. I mean, St. Joe's
all
Prep,
well
the legendary Speedy Morris, John Moscow and Archbishop Wood. we still have a lot of basketball left in the PCL. I mean, all these teams have 2 or 3 games left. So we'll see what happens here. But Newman Goretti's still the team to beat, in my eyes, I think in your eyes as well. How about you, Josh? Who's your team that can, I know Bonner, again, beat them.
Yeah.
Newman Goretti, who's the biggest threat on a neutral floor at the Palestra to Newman Goretti?
Whew, that's tough. I mean, if I had to, I could narrow it down right now between Bonner Prendy and Roman.
Roman, yeah.
And, Bonner Prendy, obviously, they have the same league record, and they have the better overall record, but I don't know. It's very tough to tell, and my gut instinct would have to go with Roman as well, simply because of the tradition and the history that they have. Look, now Bonner Prendy, on the other hand, I mean, It's very, very tough to tell. There's so much talent on the top 4 teams. Yeah.
I think a team an X factor is St. Joe's Prep. Why? Because of Ed Croswell, and he can handle Marcus Littles, and you've got Speedy Morris, who's just such a smart coach. They play each other coming up. I know Prep lost a tough one today.
Yeah, I'm surprised.
But actually, they could definitely come back against Newman Goretti, use that as motivational loss, and maybe take down Newman Goretti. But we'll see. A lot of PCL play to go, and I'm so excited because this is playoff time. But we're going to take a timeout, and we're going to go over to out of the PIAA and into the PASA and take a look at the Interact and the Friends League. So don't go anywhere. More basketball talk here on 3 in the Key.
Hi, I'm Marty Bystrom, former pitcher for the Philadelphia Phillies. In my experience in Major League Baseball, I know how important it is for high school athletes to gain exposure. My friends at Payroll Service Solutions are huge supporters of high school sports and the Sports Fan Base Network. If you are a small to medium-sized business in need of a payroll company, contact Payroll Service Solutions. Not only will they take care of you, they will continue to support the community. For more information, contact Payroll Service Solutions at 215-624-0922 or 866-PAY-EASY.
Welcome back into 3 in the Key. I'm Ari Bluestein filling in for Richie Bleiweiss tonight. To my left, Jack Kapp. To my right, Josh Abrams. Before we get into the private schools, I think it would be we should definitely mention about Rasul Butler passing away in a car crash I believe it was over the weekend. 38 years old, Roman Catholic star, LaSalle University star, NBA draft pick, killed in a car crash in California with his wife as well, Leah LaBelle, who was a singer, 31. And Cap, I know this is a guy that you saw in high school.
I saw him play. I reffed him.
And we saw him in college as well. LaSalle stud. It's a fortunate loss for the basketball community and the Philadelphia community as well.
I mean, look, if you look at his stats, if you look at his career, he had a great career. Played at Roman for Dennis Seddon, Player of the Year, 97-98. 27 points, 8 rebounds as a senior. Mark Ward, a winner, which is the best player in the city, by the way.
Right.
1,200 points as a high school senior in his high school career. Played at LaSalle for Speedy Morris, one of the best players at the end of Speedy Morris's career, and then drafted in the NBA, 53rd player drafted. Played 13 years in the NBA, which is no small potatoes.
No,
anybody who plays that long as a player,
especially for a second-round pick, 53rd in the draft.
That's something.
We knew he was very good. He had the size. He had the NBA size. And I know, Josh, you're a LaSalle guy. Rasul Butler. I mean, I'm sure that was a lot of people. That hit a lot of people hard there.
Absolutely. He's easily one of the I'd say a top 5 men's basketball player to ever come through. To come through the Gola.
Right.
2,100 plus points, 600 plus rebounds in his 4-year career, which also means a lot because he spent the entirety of his college career. He graduated, got his degree, and went on to the NBA. He's one of the most successful. And I hate to say it's not that much because he was never an NBA champion. He was never an All-Star.
No,
but the duration
again, 13
of it,
years.
13 years.
Yeah.
He was a mainstay in New Orleans when Chris Paul and David West were running things down south, and then he team hopped from here and there, but nevertheless, great player. He was, like I said, he was never a star, but he brought his size and defensive energy into the NBA, and that playing hard like that kept him in the league.
Yeah. So it's a tough loss again for the Philadelphia high school community, for LaSalle University, and we wanted to make sure that we mentioned it. Rasul Butler dead at 38, just a tough loss, gone way too young. All right, to wrap things up here, we wanted to talk a little bit of PIAA. We'll start in the Interac here. And when you talk about the Interac, you think of Malvern Prep and the Haverford School. They've both had good years. Malvern defeats Springside Chestnut Hill, despite having 4 players with the flu, but then Haverford hammers Malvern Prep 83-58. I think there's really no question who the best team is in the Interac, and it's really because of Christian Ray and Karan Randolph, and it's the Haverford School. It's the Fords.
Yeah, and the Fords are undefeated, and this is the first opportunity to win a championship since 1999 for them. So it's been 19 years. The championship in the Interac prior to that for them was 1978, and they haven't had an undefeated season in about 90 years, if I did my math right. 1927.
1927.
Would that be 91 years coming up, I think? So
2 years before Northeast won their last public league title, right?
That's right. And my mother remembers.
Tying it all in here.
My mother remembers both of them.
And here's the question, too. I think that, when you talk about the PIAA schools, obviously you have to think about Westtown. They've won the last 2 or 3, I believe, PIAA championships on the boys side.
They were loaded.
Yeah,
they're always loaded. Yeah,
they're loaded. Yeah. But we covered the game on SFBN when
2 years ago.
GA Germantown Academy really gave them a run for their money. And I guess my question to you is here, Josh: does Haverford have the horses to compete with Westtown and potentially win the PIAA title and take it from the Moose of Westtown?
It's a very, very tall task and a very difficult thing to accomplish.
For sure.
Westtown has. Well, I mean, they definitely have Cam Reddish, first and foremost, McDonald's All-American, and they have 2 other Division I players. I can't think of
Jake Forrester.
Jake Forrester and Noah Collier.
That's right.
And these kids are just trees on the field or on the court.
Yeah.
They're so big and they're so long.
And they're really athletic, too.
Christian Ray, yes, he's emerged as a star, 6'7", probably more of a wing guy, small forward.
Good defender also.
Yeah. Very hard to shut those 3 down.
And I know there's no Mo Bamba here. He's dominating at Texas for Westtown. He used to play for Westtown. But Westtown has the size. Now, when you look at that matchup that we had on SFBN where GA almost beat Westtown, they had a real good guard in Devin Goodman, and they had some good bigs in Longino and McCluskey.
Yeah.
You look at the Haverford lineup. You have Karan Randolph, great guard, and you have Christian Ray, a great forward. So you might have a formula here to give Westtown a game, and it'll be very interesting. I can see both of these teams. I think Shipley, they've got Sam Sessoms, and we talked about him on the show, but I don't think they can compete with Westtown. I think Haverford and Westtown is probably your top 2 in the
And I think Westtown is just going to use their size and the talent within that size to just roll.
I mean, look, again, they don't have the big man this year.
Right.
There's no 6'11" guy, but they have 3 guys that are 6'6" to 6'8" and are out of control athletically, so they're really good. By the way, Sessoms had 31 and 28 in his subsequent games to his 55.
After the 55 that we had.
So he's clearly averaging 30.
On SFBN on Swamp Night.
That's right. 30 a game, am I right?
I mean, he is really the only player they have right now with a couple of injuries.
Yeah.
But,
I don't think they can compete with a Westtown.
No, I don't think so.
Not from what I saw.
It's too much. It seems to be too much of a one-man show. It's a little difficult.
I think so.
And he's a small man, too.
You're going to need more than Sessoms to compete with Westtown. But we'll see. We're going to keep track of the PIAA just like we're doing. Keep a track of the PIAA. All right, so we want to wrap things up with giving our trivia answer. We don't want to forget about that.
No.
So, again, going back to our trivia question, what player scored the most points in a single game in Philadelphia high school boys basketball history? I don't know if we got any submissions, but to me, I thought of this guy right away. Cap, I'll let you reveal the answer. The answer is?
It was Wilton Norman Chamberlain, a well-known name, and sometimes known as Wilt.
Still.
Wilt,
yes.
Which he never liked, by the way. He never liked that Wilt.
Well, too bad. It's a great nickname.
But now that he's gone, I mean, we can call him anything we want. No.
90 points against Roxbury.
90 points against Roxbury. 68 in the second half.
1954.
And it keeps getting better and better as time goes on, but The legend is that he came out with 5 minutes left in the game. So if you break it down, that's a 16-minute half minus 5 is 11 minutes. He scored 68 points in 11 minutes.
Oh, and of course he scored 100 in one game.
That was pro game.
One,
that was
zero,
a pro
zero.
game.
That's
Considered one of the most dominating centers of all time.
I would say the most dominating, so much so that he was cremated. I think if his ashes came back, they could play in the NBA.
And I think we'll end it on that right there.
I like that.
Hey, so thank you so much for tuning in here to 3 in the Key. It's an honor here to sit in for Richie Bleiweiss. Look, make sure if you're watching this, make sure you comment, tell us about the show, what you want us to talk about next week. And Richie will be back next week. A lot of great shows also here on SFBN right here on Facebook Live. Tomorrow night, every Tuesday at 7 o'clock, we've got our New Jersey Wrestling Show on the mat. Mark Tribble and Brett Fetty. Varsity Voice on Wednesdays with Frankie Stokes. In the Paint, our girls basketball show with Nikki Jones, Thursday nights at 7 o'clock. Again, make sure to share our show, 3 in the Key. Tell people to watch our shows. We really love producing the content for you. We want to get more people to watch all of our shows. If you can't watch it, remember we're on iTunes. You can tune into the podcast and make sure to give us that 5-star rating. All of our shows that I just mentioned, in addition to our Rhode Island shows, are right there on the iTunes store on the podcast. And of course, make sure to check out our website, www.thesfbn.com. You can watch our past shows, our past broadcasts, but you can also look at our fresh content. We produce articles, photos, video highlights, some great stuff. So again, thank you to our wonderful crew, our producer, Julian Bellman, our great crew behind the scenes as well, from my analysts, Kapp and Josh Abrams. I'm Ari Bluestein, and a reminder to stay classy and be good to each other. And the Eagles are your Super Bowl champions.
Yeah, baby.
E-A-G-L-E-S, Eagles. Have a good night.